G'day everyone. Interesting that we're talking about all these single card slot cameras and things like that over the last few days, and I just noticed that Sony have dropped what they call the world's toughest and fastest SD memory card. Now the card that I'm using at the moment is actually this one, so these are the cards that I actually use at the moment, and I've been really happy with the performance on this, particularly from my A9, which does need that performance if you're shooting in 20 frames per second, and it clears the buffer as quickly as possible. So that's the card that I'm using, and the new cards are a fraction faster than this because I think they have a write speed of 300 in their fastest one. But I'll switch over and you can have a look at these cards themselves. This is basically the cards that they're actually saying. They're calling them the Tough, and they're saying here that it's the world's fastest one. And I know they are still 300. I think that's still the same performance as what I was using before. But basically, if we look through these, you'll notice that they have different things. They're saying it's 18 times the bend performance against what a standard SD card is, and there has been times where I have had SD cards break. If I've dropped them, for instance, I've had a couple that have broken. But I only use like the Sony ones and the SanDisk. They're the only cards that I've used. So I have always used the better quality cards. I've never used the cheaper type ones, just because basically my business relies on it. So I've tried to use the best card I can. But they are a little bit fragile. And that's, I suppose, one good thing about the way the Nikon has gone to QXD. But this may be an answer to that in the fact that the way these are manufactured, they're much tougher. So what they're saying is they're 18 times stronger than a standard actual card that's out there. If we just look at some of the features that it has, it's saying it's the world's first no write protection switch design, and I'll show you these in a second. Highest level water proof rating, shock resistance, and high reliability for professional photographers. So if we look at the first one, oh, by the way, before we do that, I'll just mention too that you also get a flash memory checkup application in there. Now, what they're saying there is that these cards, like anything, have a limited number of times that you can write to the actual card. Well, this utility checks that and checks the card to make sure it still is okay. So it would tell you if the card is becoming to the point where you need to get rid of it. And that's a really good thing. And so you can download that. I'm not sure whether you can download that. It says you can also download this thing called the file recovery software, which will recover images and video files. And if you've purchased the Sony cards, you can actually download that utility as well. I know SanDisk has a similar thing as well on all the SanDisk's ones. It doesn't have this flash memory checkup application, but it does have that file recovery software on the SanDisk cards. And then it also has it sometimes if you buy USB sticks and things like that. If you look down here, to show what they're actually saying on the camera, it's saying it's got the world's toughest level of bend strength, and there's a video that you can play that I won't show you, but I'll put the link down below and you can have a look at these cards yourself, because you don't have to be in Sony to buy these. You could have these in any camera that takes these SD cards, and there's a video that shows the amount of rate that the early one goes very quickly and the Sony one keeps going, the new card. I think it's saying also that it's made out of one piece. This is saying that the conventional cards are made up of all these multiple pieces, whereas this one is just a one-piece construction, so it's much stronger. I believe it's a metal design inside. The other thing too is it's saying there's no write protection switch. Now this is interesting because I have had cards where this switch has failed and it's actually fallen off. So it is a weakness of these cameras, and I never use it anyway. Let me know in the comments whether you do, but I don't. I never ever use the write protection switch. And it's also saying it's got rid of these ribs, which are meant to be the weak point of the card. You can see here that the new one has no switch, and it also has none of these ribs as well. So that's an interesting thing. Also waterproofing, they're saying that basically this has the highest waterproofing that's available. It can be left in 5 meters of water for 72 hours, so that is really good. If you did drop it into the water, obviously it's still going to be usable, and you could probably keep it under there for a lot longer than that. This is just what it's rated, but you probably find it could go a lot longer than that. Shock resistance, they're saying you can drop it 5 meters and it will survive. So if you did drop it, there's a good chance that it's going to be okay. And they're also saying it's got high reliability for professional photographers. World's fastest SD card. Like I said, I use the same version of this. It's just not the tough one, and it is very, very fast, and it does clear the buffer as fast as possible. So that's another great thing as well. And there's just some stats here that are talking about the difference between this card and a UHS-1 card. I mean, clearly the UHS-2 is going to be faster, but you do have to make sure that your camera has a UHS-2 slot to be able to get that off quick enough and to use those features. Faster backups obviously as well. And down the bottom here, it's just saying it has this scan utility that I mentioned before that does check your card if there's an error or if it's not going to be able to write again properly, and it would tell you basically then you need to update your card, and that's a really good thing. I think all card manufacturers actually should probably give you this. Remember, no card will last you forever. They do only have a limited number of times they can write to the card, so this is another great thing. And obviously they have this file recovery software as well. So overall, it's interesting. There's no pricing yet or availability, I don't think, about when this is going to be available. I probably will pick some of these up, though, when they're released. Because, like I said, I always want the best cards that I can put in my camera, so I probably will buy a few of these. It's going to be interesting to see how much they cost, because they're not cheap. Even the Sony one I use now is not a cheap card, but you get what you pay for, I suppose. So anyway, let me know what you think about it, and I'll see you all again soon for the next video. Bye for now, guys.